Colorado and Deion Sanders had the
that's
spring game. They had a bunch of players exit.
And they peed a bit?
Yeah, and it's been, they might, and they might real early in the season. Because as we've talked about, they're opening up the year against TCU, who was just in the national championship game, kind of. I mean, they were kind of there. They were there in spirit. They, the players showed up, and their fans were definitely there. Like, they packed that place. And then about 20 minutes later, it was over. And TCU is back, and they'll be playing Colorado the first game of the year. And so what was interesting yesterday during Fox's Upfront, on Monday, the network announced some big matchups in college football. Now, the game between Ohio State and Michigan, that's going to be in the usual spot. That's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So those teams are going to be playing at the Big House. That's always a fun event. Jim Harbaugh and Michigan are going to be going for 3 in a row against Ohio State, which I know does not land well for Ohio State Buckeye fans. Albert Breer is probably going to try and avoid social media altogether that week because he doesn't have to be reminded that Ohio State's come up short against Michigan, and they're going to be at Michigan that year, or coming up next year. But the other big game that was announced during the upfront for Fox yesterday was that Colorado and TCU will be displayed on the big network, Big Fox. So Deion Sanders' first game as Colorado coach, with all the hoopla, all the turnover, the spring game love, all the season tickets that have been sold, all of the attention that they've gotten, when everybody clearly understands this was an awful football team a year ago. It's going to take a lot to try and turn this team around, and they're going to open up on national TV on the biggest stage possible, and they're staring at about a 20 to a 21-point underdog at TCU. So Deion's going to learn pretty quickly that you're no longer at Jackson State. This is the big time, and TCU might get after him a little bit there to start out the season.
Or you might see Deion show you how the transfer portal could work to a level of what you're thinking not being what the reality ends up being. I mean, you saw he just got like four or five top guys from Florida State.
I can't even keep track anymore. There's so many moving pieces.
He is totally rebuilding his roster, and I mean, I don't pretend to know how he's navigating it or how he's organized it or when do you go get this amount of dudes at this point in time, and so on and so forth. But he is building a team. Like, he's not playing around. So what's going to happen is it's going to come down to, it's always going to be Joes over X's and O's, always. And if you bring in enough Joes and you got some warriors on that team, they're going to win. I mean, there's a strong possibility they are going to win. Now, here's what's more interesting. This is where the Icarus theory could take place, Jonas. Thinking that Shedeur is a franchise quarterback. Now, that's the possibility of Icarus, meaning if Deion thinks his son is what he is as a QB, then there's a strong possibility Shedeur Sanders will not only be up for the Heisman, but the amount of hype that would be able to accompany him at a Colorado with his dad, he'll win it. He'll win. Which, by the way, the funny thing is Shedeur and Caleb Williams played in my 8th grade game, the same exact game. Shedeur got MVP of that game. Caleb was knocked out first play of the game. Anyway, that's an interesting fact. But if Shedeur is as good as publicized by Deion, then this team should win with the amount of talent that they're putting across their offensive front, the amount of talent, the skill out there on at the receivers position, the edge rushers, the interior linemen on defense, the linebackers, the corners. He has totally revamped Colorado football through the transfer portal. So now all of that pressure falls on his coaching staff and his quarterback. and his quarterback is his son, Shedeur Sanders, who comes in with a lot of fanfare and a lot of hype behind him to see what it is that he can do. Now, that to me is the question mark.
150-1 to win the Heisman, Shedeur Stevenson. Or Shedeur
Sanders.
Stevenson. Why did I just call him?
You're talking about the boxer.
Yeah, I just tried to call him Shakur Stevenson. Yeah. Sorry about that. Shedeur Sanders, 150-1 to win the Heisman.
It's not bad odds.
I do think that there's going to be an element of this, and I think we're already seeing it a little bit. There are going to be some, I don't know if old head is the right word, but some people that are your classic college football fan that are going to want to see this fail. Like, they're going to want to see it fail because they don't like what Deion's done. They don't like that there's been this much turnover. They don't like that things are being done different. And the only thing that I would simply like to present them is he's taking over one of the worst teams in college football from a year ago. Anybody telling Deion Sanders this isn't the right way to do it clearly didn't watch Colorado football because they are atrocious. So anything that they're doing now, I would consider an upgrade over where they were at over the past year or so. And
the kids that are in Boulder right now would not be there under any other circumstances. They wouldn't be there under any other circumstances.
Yeah.
You don't have the money to afford a coach like Nick Saban, where you could pull in a guy that can start bringing in recruits. That would be the only other way, which is the budget large enough for you to do what they do at Alabama for Nick Saban to be there. And so sometimes you get what you pay for too. Sometimes you start to uncover the fact that some of these schools are posing like they want to be sports powerhouses, football powerhouses. But if you follow the money doesn't say that that's what they want to be. So a lot of the things that you're seeing take place in Boulder, Colorado, are things that aren't even coming out of the budget of Colorado football. The branding has been so magnificently brilliant by Deion Jr. For Deion Sanders and the branding of not only Deion has turned everywhere he's gone into the Deion show. So everything is naturally going to be embellished. It's going to be blown up and amplified through what he's doing and how he's doing it. And there's been no different for Colorado football. I mean, his influence alone sold out basically the spring game, like you said.
And if it works, like, that's awesome. Like, if there's another way to do it and he's showing you another way to do it.
Yeah, but the other way to do it does not exist for you if you're not Deion Sanders.
You don't think there's elements of this that
No.
So the transfer portal and all that, it's just because it's Deion, that's why this is
the way it's
working.
This way.
Yeah.
The way this is in particular, the uniqueness in nature of how this is unfolding is pure. You can't replicate it. Eddie George is at Tennessee State right now. You talking about him? Huh? What we saying?
Who are you talking about?
Who you talking? We ain't talking about his ass. You know what I mean? Like,
love Eddie George.
Ed Reed goes to Bethune-Cookman. He don't even make it to the first practice. All right, so when you look at what Prime has been able to do, the Prime effect is the same exact effect he had when he was a player. He has mastered the art of marketing and advertising himself, and he does it so well. But what you don't realize is how brilliant a person he is and how detail-oriented he is in the things that he does. And I know this because he was my teammate, and he applied that detail and approach to me my rookie year, and I learned a ton from him. So in the end, when you look at what Deion's doing, Deion is coaching that team. Deion is building a culture.